happy early Mother's Day to everyone, or Mother's Week, because I'm going to claim the entire week, and I feel like every mother should claim the entire week because Mother's Day is on Sunday. But you guys,
that's very accurate because mothers deserve more than just a day.
I disagree. May is hell for me. Birthdays, anniversaries, Mother's Day, May is hell for me.
Okay, anyways, so we're just not going to listen to Russell's comment, but you guys are listening to AuthorTalk with me, Amy, Fern, and Russell, and our lovely guest, author guest today is Martine. So you guys, let's dive into the weekend, okay? Because I am dying to listen to Russell's feedback, like always. This weekend, I purchased a bunk bed for my kids. Josh went and got it. I bought it from the marketplace. It was beautiful. Hey, how are you? And so Josh put it together. So my in-laws drove up, and Josh's dad helped him put it together. And me and Josh's mom went out looking for bedspreads and stuff. So we purchased mattresses and all of this. So we did all of that. Ran around. We regrouted our backsplash. This is all on Saturday. Okay, we grouted our backsplash and caulked it, so it's perfect. That's done. I'm gonna do
far, this just sounds like a terrible weekend to me.
No, I'm gonna do the island by myself. It's gonna be great. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna do stone on the island. Now, okay, you guys. Besides all of that, okay, at 2:15 in the morning, my daughter that previously had the stomach bug on Friday or Wednesday got it again, but it was a double whammy because both of my kids had it. They had just slept in their new bunk bed, and it was just gross. Okay, just gross. And then to find out after all of that, and off of 3 hours of sleep, on top of all of that, I started not feeling good yesterday. I didn't have the stomach bug or anything like that. So, of course, right, I'm proactive on some of these things because I had time. I made my own doctor's appointment this morning, and it turns out that I have strep throat, and all of my symptoms, like my headache and my stomach hurting and everything, is from strep throat, which I've already had this year. I actually had it 2 months ago. So all of my kids are going to be going and getting checked out.
That's daycare disease.
It's awful.
That's what that is.
And I've never had strep throat in my entire life. And this year I've gotten it twice in a couple of months. So that's not very fun at all, to be completely honest. So on top of all of that, Russell would like an update on my training for Kawaii, which is still at this moment in full swing. But I have had to miss some of my training because I've either had sick kids or I have been sick myself, or Josh has had COVID and I've had to take care of Josh and his COVIDness. So April was, a setback, I would say. But I still am getting into shape for it. I follow all of the groups. I think mentally I can do it. I just have to pick up my endurance. But those crazy things called children are really, their sickness is getting in the way of that currently, because my house is like plague after another, just for whatever reason. So currently, Russell, it is on with probably going to be moved. We'll see how this month and next month go, but so far.
Okay, tell the audience that may not remember what your Kauai trip is, which is a 12-mile hike and a camp out in the waterfall.
It is a 11-mile hike in and out. You can only hike in and out unless you want to take the helicopter like Russell did, which I'm not going to do. And you camp on the beach. There's other places you can go. There's like this beautiful garden that you can go and like get food. And I really want to go and then hike out. But if I do this hike with my husband, okay, the agreement was that then I can have a 10-day vacation on the Big Island and I can do whatever I want to do. But I have to do this hike first, okay? If that's not motivation for anybody, I don't know what is, because that just, we're going to do it. Yes.
Whatever you pick, Kauai hike will be better.
I mean,
because it is the most beautiful place on earth.
I mean, there is a lot of cool things, and there's the like cave that you can walk through at low tide. I've done a lot of research on this because all of you guys know I'm not big into outdoorsy. Now, I'm more outdoorsy than Fern. I can handle that. I'm not as outdoorsy as Russell or my husband, so it's going to be a fun little challenge. Okay, it's a fun little escapade because the one time I did do camping on a beach was miserable. I was in the wrong sleeping bag. Josh gave me a sleeping bag for like 30 below freezing, and it was on the beach and it was hot and there was sand everywhere. So that part I will be planning myself, okay? Because I don't like humans.
Yes, you need, if you're gonna put yourself through nature, you need the proper tools.
Yes. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun and, you know, experimenting. We're going to go over Crawler's Ledge, which is like a ledge that goes around a mountain. It's going to be a lot of fun at some point if I get there. But right now with my kids being sick, it's looking foggy. It's looking foggy at the moment. But ask me in 2 weeks, Russell, and we'll see. But what did everybody else do this weekend? I hope it was less sicky than my weekend. So who wants to go first?
Well, I spent the whole weekend at Brownsville, Texas. I got myself a little Airbnb, and I have spent the weekend writing, reading, reflecting, and just enjoying time away just for me. I went to the zoo. The Gladys Porter Zoo, by the way, is one of the top zoos in the nation. And I went to visit my old friends, the giraffes, and reminisced about so many times that we were there as kids and the birthday parties we celebrated there and such. And then I spent a day at the beach in South Padre Island and just enjoyed the sound of the waves and all that sand that got everywhere and the wave, you know, it was great. It was a wonderful time of meditation. I ate delicious burgers at Blackbeard's, which I always call Blackbirds because the sign has all these black birds on it. And so ever since I was a kid, I kept thinking it was Blackbirds, but it's actually Blackbeard's restaurant. So anyway, that was me. And so I'm all packed up. And after our show, I'm going to load up my car and head home. Yeah. So it was really good. It was a very relaxing weekend, and it was a really good time of just recalibration. Sometimes you have to just put yourself on timeout and recalibrate your life, you know? So it was good.
I do that every day. I put myself when my husband comes home in timeout and I go and sit in my closet. So I do that every day, mostly to get away from my kids. But a reset is always good, especially when it's writing and stuff like that. Russell, like you've never done that. I know that you've done that. Yes.
He does that at the cigar lounge. That's where he puts himself in timeout.
I love it. No, I love my children dearly. So the fact that they're starting to feel how I feel, we have doctorate appointments and everything right after this. But timeout is good. And I think it helps you in the whole writing process because I think when you have like a relaxed mind and your mindset's relaxed and everything, I think it kind of brings newer inspiration and better writing.
Oh, yeah, because especially I've been so stuck at the ending of Gortiv Offensive. You know, it's my book 2, and I've just been stuck. I've been struggling with trying to figure out where to end it. And I don't want to go to a 4-book series, but this is really getting long. And so I think I'm going to have to find an ending and then just bite the bullet and just end up with an extra book if necessary, because this is just, yeah. So it helped to really look at it and to see potential endpoints with what I've already got, you know, so that I can then, you know, maybe not go so long, because it's already sitting at 150,000 words, and that's too long. That's I want to make it into like one. United Vidin was 127, and Love's Calls around the same amount. So I don't want to go above 130. You know, so yeah.
Buyers actually prefer shorter books now.
Huh? Yeah, and I feel like it's heavy. It's heavy because it's very high level sci-fi and fantasy blend. So yeah, that's what I've been looking at actually, is where can I end it now with what I've got that is a satisfying space for it to end, and then just do 4 books if necessary, because there's just way too much story to tell.
Yeah. I think it's good. You shouldn't want to just cut it off. But like, nope, we're doing 3 books and that's it. Like you're open to another book, which I think is good. Martine, what did you do this weekend?
Well, my weekend was pretty boring compared to yours. I'm actually going through reviewing the proofs for my next book, which should go to print like at the end of this week. And I'm also trying to pack, like I'm leaving tomorrow morning for Quebec City. I will be meeting with my mama for her 89th birthday. And then my husband and I are supposed to spend a week along the St. Lawrence River, Tadoussac, Baie-Saint-Paul, Château-Frontenac. But there was a big flood there last week, and the roads are cut off now. So we're scrambling around, trying to figure out what are we going to do, where are we going to go. We have to revise the whole trip planning. So it was a bit hectic and a little bit nerve-wracking.
Martine, the main farm that produces foie gras from the United States for almost all the United States is on the St. Lawrence pathway. Are you going? Are you a foie gras fan? Is
Yes,
that something?
I am.
Because if I was doing that, I would actually have to stop at that farm.
Well, that's the thing. What was it? Baie-Saint-Paul. Baie-Saint-Paul, La Malbaie, this is the lamb heaven and foie gras heaven. But now Baie-Saint-Paul has been cut off. The village has been cut off in 2 parts. There's no more bridge, no more road. So we may have to say bye-bye to the foie gras for now.
That's terrible, because foie gras is yummy.
It is. And rillette de canard, duck also. Duck is also really good. But
I've never eaten duck. I've never had duck.
Well, then you cheated yourself.
I just, I've never, I don't know. I don't even know why. It's not that
duck
it sounds good.
A duck leg confit, like cooked in its own fat for hours and hours and hours. It is so delicious.
Yeah,
you're making me hungry.
You'll be sick for 2 days afterwards, but during the meal, it's the greatest thing you've ever had.
Yeah, you have to get your system has to get used to all that fat. But being French, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Now she's just bragging. She's starting a fight right away by bragging. Okay, I can't even talk about what I did, Martine. I have to ask you a question. Did you your book was originally written in French?
Yes.
Which makes me terribly jealous. Did you market your book in France as well?
This one, yes. This one, I went to the Salon du Livre, the book fair in Paris, and I sold every copy I had. I had like copies of 5 of my different books, and I sold everything. And I had duck confit.
You're such a braggart. She's such a braggart. It's terrible.
You had me at Paris, because that's like my all-time favorite city in the world.
Yeah, I went to the book fair in Paris twice, and both experiences were really, really interesting. Actually, when I was in Paris for the second book fair, we also launched the English version of one of my novels, In the Fold of the Hills. So you're in a situation where you go to France to launch a book in English that has been translated by a Scottish woman who lives in Paris. It was it was an interesting experience.
I can only imagine. I like you, Martine, because not very many people can get Russell as riled up and jealous as you
I'm
have,
so jealous.
And it's amazing. So I love you. Just
Martine,
anytime. I love it.
Have you read Proust in French?
Let me phrase this. I tried to read Proust in French.
I understand.
When I did my first year university in French literature, we had a reading list that comprised 100 books of different genres that we had to read during the first year. And honest to God, the only one that I was not able to finish was À la recherche du temps perdu, Marcel Proust.
I
I was
bet you
never able
could
to finish that
now.
book.
I bet, some books you have to grow older to read. You read them in college, it doesn't mean the same. It may mean something totally different as you get older. Anna Karenina did that to me. I want to thank the people listening to us on our podcast. Most people, Martine, don't watch us on Monday mornings. They listen to us during the week on podcast. We're very grateful to them. Amy, where can people find us?
Yes, so you can find us anywhere that you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google, Apple, Good Pods, any of those places that you can listen to podcasts where you can find us. Check out our new branding. It's the crimson, red, and gold. Russell finally found us. They were the first ones that pop up, so hopefully you can find us. But feel free, if you want to be on the show, to direct message me or DM me on any of our socials. That way you can get on the show. My email, you guys, does get really bogged down. On top of all of that, we are incredibly grateful and humble that you guys do listen to us. We started this because it was Russell's dream, and we just have a lot of fun listening and meeting new authors and their stories and their adventures. And so it's been a fun and exciting 8 years with many more to come. But you guys can watch us in our video on YouTube or our Facebook group. Fern and I are very good at controlling what comes out of our mouth, but not our facial expressions. I talk a lot with my hands, and we are very animated. So if you want to have a good chuckle, come on over to Facebook or YouTube, and you can watch us live or our replays of our videos. You can follow any of us on social media or ask to be our friends if you want to. Some of us have private accounts. But other than that, you guys, we thoroughly enjoy it. We can't wait to see what happens. But Fern, I'm going to kick it over to you, and let's get Martine talking about her books.
Yes. Well, Martine, the first thing I wanted to ask, which is something I always ask because I am always interested in where a writer's journey starts. What made you want to be a writer? What was it that made you go, yes, I want to write books?
As far as I can remember, it is the only thing I've always wanted to do. I'm the third one. I had 2 older brothers, and my older brother started going to school, and I remember being in diapers, sitting at the table doing my devoir, my homework, my fake homeworks with my brothers, and telling them and my parents that I was writing books. And then my mom told me, well, before you write books, you have to learn how to read. And I said, no, Mama, you don't get it. I don't want to read the books. I want to write them. And that's how it started. And then at age 7, I wrote my first poem, which was about the birth of a bird.
Oh.
And I don't know, I got praised by my teacher, by my parents friends and everything. And there I was, this was my path. But then there were many, many bumps and turns along the road before I finally became a writer almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. What are some of those bumps in the road? What were some of the things, the challenges to getting to be a writer that you faced?
Well, things like dropping out of high school twice, drugs, boys,
men. Yes, they're terrible.
That situation, dysfunctional family, which I realized later on that gives me a lot of material.
That's true.
Yes. Bonus. You can use everything. So yeah, this was some of the bumps along the road. And I was born in a very blue collar family. Like my dad has a grade 7, my mom had a grade 9, a little mining town. There was no college, no nothing. It was not in our realm of possibility to go to school even. So I figured, well, maybe I'll become a hairdresser. So I became a hairdresser for about a year. Then I moved to the big city, to Montreal, to become a professional model. I did that. And this was so boring, such a boring job, that this is when I started reading novels like compulsively between shows, because there was nothing to do. And eventually brought me back to school.
That is very cool. And see, every writer's journey is so different and unique. And it's wonderful to get to hear where, the life took you. So, what was your first book? And what was the inspiration for that first book that you published?
My first book, well, I spent like 6 years at university studying French literature, but back then in Montreal, I was working for a PR agency, and I was working like 7 days a week, like 12, 13 hours a day minimum. I had no space, no time to write anything. Then in 1993, 30 years ago, I moved from Quebec to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is in the middle of the Canadian prairies.
Ooh.
In Quebec, I lived in French. I moved here starting to, a new life in English, not knowing anybody. So then all of a sudden I had a lot of space and time to think and reflect. And one day my boyfriend, who's now my husband, took me to a place called Fort San. Fort San was a sanatorium in the Qu'Appelle Valley. Qu'Appelle Valley, Google Qu'Appelle Valley. It's such a beautiful place. So when he took me to this old sanatorium that had an aura of mystery and many ghost stories attached to it, I had the calling. I had found the setting for my very first novel. So this is In the Fold of the Hill. So it was published in French, Dans le Pli des Collines, and almost 10 years later got translated in English under the title In the Fold of the Hill. And that was, I won an award for this one. And it's still very, very dear to my heart. It's a mystery and ghost story that takes place in 3 different generations.
So is that kind of your genre? Like, do you, because this new book is also kind of a mystery ghost story type story. So do you find that is the genre that sort of captured you and that you write most in, or do you explore other genres as well?
I explore other genres as well, but I have a faible, what it is in English, I don't know.
A fable?
I really like ghost stories, like mysteries, definitely. And ghost stories, because I myself had many weird experiences involving people who have passed. And this Ghost of Spiritwood includes a couple of those stories.
Well, very nice. Very nice. I love it. And so as you were preparing for this book, this new book that you're working on, what are some of the things that you find yourself researching in your books? What are some of the things that you find yourself kind of looking for information on as a writer?
In the Ghost of Spiritwood?
Yeah, and in general, like, what are some of the things that have been, areas of research that you have poured into that you have found most fascinating as you're moving into your books?
Well, the most fascinating one was, I don't know if you ever heard, are you familiar with cowboy stories? Will James.
Yes, we're in Texas. We know cowboys.
Will James, he wrote Smokey, Lonesome Cowboy. He wrote 24 novels. He made some movies in Hollywood. He was a very famous artist also. He's very famous for his paintings. So I saw a documentary one day about this guy, this American cowboy, and 25 years after his death, a biographer uncovered that he was a French Canadian by the name of Ernest Dufault, coming from a place near Drummondville in Quebec. So then I was like, what? So that took me down the rabbit hole. I did research for 5 years on this Will James. I went to Reno, Nevada. I went to Billings, Montana, doing research on him. And the end result is a play in French and in English called Willie Ernest, which won an award for the best drama in 2020. There's also an adult novel and a youth novel. So I have 3 different pieces now stemming from that Will James.
Very cool. So when you're writing for the theater for a play, how do you find that in comparison to a novel? Like, do you find that one is easier for you to write than the other? Do you find yourself having to curb some of your descriptive pieces? Because in the play, you sort of focus more on action and dialogue. How is that, those two genres, how is that for you?
I really feel like I'm wearing a different hat, whatever version I'm doing. When I write the novel, really, I sit down and I see the movie in my mind's eye, and I write what I see. When I write a play, I see the action taking place on stage, and you have to you know how you have to involve like the five senses in whatever you write if you want to make it really alive. If you want a beating heart in your piece, well, you have to call up to different senses whatever you do. And then with that Will and Ernest, I also did a radio adaptation for Radio Canada, CBC. And this was another challenge because then, I went from the full range of seeing the movie to the stage version to now only hearing what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased because the producer did not change even a comma in my adaptation. So I was really, really thrilled about that.
That sounds really cool. How did you get into the opportunity for doing the radio?
Chance.
Just kind of happened.
I guess one of Radio Canada producer contacted some theaters, some French language theaters in Western Canada, and someone suggested this play, and they said yes right away. And I spent a couple months doing the adaptation, and then we had part of the original cast doing the recording of course, in a professional studio with Radio Canada people. That was really exciting.
Very cool. So do you write a lot of just standalone pieces? Like these are just books that have, their characters and stuff is just a single time? Do you do some series where you follow characters across different situations? What is your preference in that regard?
So far, I've done only standalones, but now with The Ghost of Spiritwood, which I wrote a number of years ago because the French version was published in 2010. And I always had the intention to write other adventure for my main characters, Ethan and Alex. They discover that they're not ghostbusters. They're two teenagers. They're what they call themselves ghost rescuers.
Oh.
And now with the second life that this story is getting, I had, people asking for more adventure for those two characters. So now I'm starting to brew up some plots, sending them some areas of the different areas of the province, because there's a lot of ghost stories everywhere in Saskatchewan.
So what is the difference between a ghostbuster and a ghost rescuer?
This is my own definition. The ghostbuster will be called into a place to get rid of the ghosts, to house them outside of a house or a museum or a theater or whatever. And then we don't know what happens to that ghost. It's just been kicked out. But in the case of Alex and Ethan, what they did is by contacting this lost soul in that abandoned country school, they uncovered an accident, let's say, in the way that this young boy passed away, and he was stuck in that school because his tormentor would not let him out of the school. So what they did, they took care of the tormentor, and then the little boy could finally be freed after 30 some years.
Oh, nice. So your characters are going to free the ghosts,
Yes.
help them to make that transition.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. That's a different take. So as you're thinking about where you're going to take these characters, are you looking at researching some ghosts that are, that are known, or places that are known to be haunted, to see what you might come up with?
I will research existing places, or I can also do like I did with Spiritwood. This was made up, totally made up. That little school may exist. I don't know. Uh, and this book stems from a series of workshop that I've done with 32 grade 7 and 8 kids from a French immersion school. So
Mm.
that means the French immersion. I mean that those kids are from Anglophone, English-speaking families, and they go to school in French. So this is the one. And the other day, someone was asking me, why do you think that this story may appeal as much to English people, English-speaking kids that they did with French-speaking kids? Well, maybe because the kids that came up with some of the storyline or English speaking kids. I don't know.
Well, and I mean, stories transcend
Yeah,
national boundaries and languages. I mean, at the end of the day, our heart as writers is to portray the human condition, right? And in
exactly.
these young boys are they're helping others, to
Hmm.
transition, and so that human condition of seeking to help others, seeking to understand other people's situations, confronting dark forces that hold us back, all of that is going to transcend to all languages, I would imagine.
It
Was
does.
it was it has it been hard to find, translation avenues, or, do you find that it has been relatively easy to move your books from one language to another?
I found it easy because I decided after translating, I've been doing translation for 30 some years, mainly from English to French. But this time, after translating a few books, I figured, why don't I translate one of mine? So I picked this one, which was very popular, and it's still very popular in schools across the country. And I thought, since this is a young adult, so my young adults novel don't contain as many like poetic descriptions. Let's say the story moves through dialogue. So I figured I can do dialogue, and with a good reviser, I will. Yeah, I know we can do that. So it was relatively easy, yes. And I'm planning on translating another one of mine this summer, which was also created based on workshops that I've done with kids, half immersion and half real French kid, if I may say.
So do you enjoy working with your kids? Do you find that they inspire you a lot? Because like that's one of the things that I have found in my own life, just being a teacher, being around those kids. You find a lot of energy and creativity there, and I don't know how that is for you.
It's very inspiring, and it also scares the hell out of me because all these books, I have 7 right now from this collection, a collection called Escapad with a big SK for Saskatchewan. And they've all, I show up one day in a classroom and I tell them we're gonna create a story together, the storyline, at least, for, over the 6 week period or 3 week period. And then I come up with, a zebra that has been transformed into an ogre, or a little farm boy who lost a leg in a farming accident and end up with a bionic leg. Right now, I'm working on a story about a man who had a mining accident and got greffé. What's a greffé? Some doctor put on some goat legs on him. Like, this is all off the map, completely completely crazy stories, and I challenged myself to make it into a believable story. So
And so
far, it's been working.
so these are the stories you work with your kiddos. You throw these at them.
Yes, well, they throw them at me. Because
Ooh, I love that.
when I come into the classroom, it's carte blanche. I have no idea what kind of story we're going to create. Absolutely no idea. The only thing that is a must for me is that the story takes place in Saskatchewan. And because this whole project is financed by the Ministry of Education and by a French publisher from here in Saskatchewan. So to me, it's important to put the real history and landscape of Saskatchewan first and foremost. Yeah.
And do you find that that is very helpful to the kids? Because I find that a lot of kids have very great imaginations, and they can just go anywhere. But I find that some kids, especially if they're reluctant writers, giving them a very specific location that they know well often helps unleash it. Do you find that your kids embrace and sort of flourish writing about their hometown where they're living?
Writing about their hometown, and also reading, period. Like when I was finishing the Ghost of Spiritwood, one day I walked into the school and the librarian comes to see me and asked me, "What did you do to those kids?" What do you mean? Well, all this bunch of boys there, they never set foot in the bibliothèque unless it was like the mandatory hour with the class. But now they come anytime, any given time, they come in and they take books. And well, I was very happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a success. That is a huge success, because that means you unleashed their desire for the written word.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I'm really proud of is that every year I get an invitation from the University of Regina to talk to the third year teaching student, those who will become teacher next year. And at 3 occasions, I had in the class one of the kid that was part of one of those 7 projects. And I'm really proud when I see, especially when it was kids from immersion school, and they decided to continue their education in French at university, and now they're going to teach French. I'm proud of that.
Yes, that is huge. That is one of the beautiful things about being a teacher, is seeing lives changed from what you do. You know, it is a beautiful thing, and I think it's a calling. So what, you're going to keep working with these characters and giving them more books. Are there other projects on your plate that you're looking forward to working on?
Yes, I still have 3 more novels, 1 adult and 2 youth, and 1 play. I always work on multiple projects at any given time, because sometimes I don't get ideas for one, so you let it sit there for a few weeks or a few months, and then you get back to it, and one day, you see the light. You know what the DNA of that story is.
Yeah.
So I really like to do that. So I structure my day usually doing fresh writing, like creative writing, in the morning, and then in the afternoon I will work on editing a more advanced manuscript.
That is really cool to know. So as you work through your day, do you have, partners that you work with in terms of getting critique or feedback? Do you have a developmental editor? That's always interesting to see, like, what is your process for, the portion where you wrote it, and now you're polishing it. What is the team that you use for helping you polish?
The team is me, moi, and myself. And when my team is satisfied with the manuscript, the manuscript, then I ask advice to different people, and I will approach different people depending on the kind of story that I wrote. And I'm always very nervous waiting feedback from, to waiting to find out what they think of that story, and if they can. Usually I get some very good pointers as to maybe what section I should develop more. This section here, well, this is dead. You can cut these 4,000 words here. You don't need that, and you need external help. But I always wait until I'm satisfied. I'm certain about my product, if I may say.
Very cool. Yes. And it's good to hear the different methods that different authors use, and it's always important having those external eyes to look at your manuscripts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we love having author interviews. And so one of the things that is always interesting for me is, what are the things that inspire you the most? Obviously ghosts, but beyond that, what are some of the things that really inspire you to write?
It is so eclectic. It's a gut feeling. Like in The Fold of the Hills, it was the old sanatorium, all these pavilions and houses and labs, and I don't know. With Will James, it was the fact that he built a whole career as a writer, a stuntman, and a painter, making people believe that he was born in Montana. It really depends. I just stay open to whatever may touch me.
Whatever comes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you. And we're coming close to the end, so I'm going to kick it over to Amy.
Russell, you've been awfully quiet. Do you have any last minute questions, statements, anything like that before we let Martine go?
I do.
Thinking about foie gras and duck.
Oh yeah. I got to tell you, we've been on this show for about 8 years. I don't think I've ever heard an author describe their workday quite the way you did, or that you work on different projects at the same time. I find that very interesting. That was probably, besides talking about foie gras, was probably my favorite part of the interview. Could you tell us where listeners can find your books?
Books, most of my books are in French, but there's also Dans le Pied des Collines and the Ghost of Spiritwood and Will and Ernest, the play. The book is half in French, half in English. The whole play. It's a bilingual edition. It's available everywhere on Amazon, des libraires, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. Yeah.
I love
e-books, paper books. Yeah.
I love it. You're just everywhere, and you're, working on translating your books, which is amazing. But the conversation and the way that you think and you work, and just how you've always wanted to be a writer since you were in diapers, is just amazing, and it's fascinating. And the fact that you have made Russell so jealous of you is like icing on top for me. I thoroughly have enjoyed that. 100%. I know Jan went and said that she went and purchased some of your books on Amazon in French, and she's super excited to start reading them and hopefully leaving reviews. Jan, you know that reviews are important for all authors. But Martine, we want to thank you for taking time out of your morning to come and talk with us and just open up about being a writer and how you fell into it and your passion for writing, because it really does come across. So thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to come and talk with us.
Well, thanks to you. That was really fun.
Oh, anytime. We love doing this. So you guys, happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Week. I'm going to correct myself and say, but we hope that you all have a fantastic Monday, a great rest of your week, and we will catch you all next Monday. Bye, everybody.